welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to talk about how to make this into this. Today we're going to talk about custom baits and making our own jigs. And there's nothing really more rewarding than making a bait, customizing it yourself, and catching fish on it. And honestly, jigs are probably the easiest ones to do. They're a lot simpler. You can buy jig molds, you can buy the lead pot. It's just a fun little activity to do in the wintertime whenever you're looking for things to pass the time until the next fishing tournament. Out there's a ton of different jig molds. You can basically go online and find the certain jig molds you like the best, or if there's a certain bait you want to make, you can probably find a jig mold out there for it. This one here that I'm using is a round weedless jig. You'll notice with these jig molds that there'll be a few different cavities. So like this one, I can make a 7/16, 3/8, or a 5/16 ounce finesse jig. It'll tell you which hooks to get, so you might want to pay attention to those, and also which size hooks to get, as well as which hole pins you need and which weed guards. So it basically is pretty self-explanatory. It tells you what you need for each mold. But what I'll do is I'll just put this hook right in that cavity there where it needs to be. And you want to make sure you get everything lined up just right. Then I'll put this hole pin in there, and that basically is going to leave us a hole where the weed guard will go. And if without that, then the ball head would just be solid and we wouldn't be able to have put that weed guard in. So I got everything in place. It's flat, it's ready to go. What I'll do is I'll just close it up and we're ready to take it over to the lead pot. You want to make sure that there's no crease in there. If there's a crease in there, then it means that your hooks and stuff aren't quite lined up. So the first thing I'll do is I'll start up the lead pot, and I like to turn this on like about 5 or 6, because when I initially started doing this, I actually had one and I turned it all the way up because I figured hotter the better. But I actually burned up the coils in the lead pot and needed to get a new one. So that's one thing I've been doing ever since I got the new one, is I leave it like middle of the way and it'll definitely get hot enough still. Another thing is you want to use clean lead. If you use dirty lead, it's going to clog up that spout and you're going to have issues whenever you're pouring. Also, I like to make sure I have enough lead in the pot. So sometimes it'll like slow down the flow, and if I add lead to it, it'll pick it up and I can pour a lot quicker. So after I plug in the lead pot, it usually takes 20-30 minutes to heat up. Usually what I do when I'm waiting is I'll get all my supplies together. But another trick that I do when I'm waiting is I'll actually drape the jig mold over the top of the lead pot, and that'll kind of allow it to heat up the jig mold, and it prevents the lead from actually hardening before it sets up in that mold. When the lead is heated up and ready to go, what I'll do is I'll just find the jig mold that I want. I'll put the hooks and all the accessories in it, whether it be screw locks or the weed guard pin or anything like that. I'll just put them in there, close it up, make sure it's completely closed and there's no crease in there. I'll hold it under the spout of the lead pot and lift that handle. It'll pour until it comes out the top. I can do as many cavities as it is for that run, and it's as simple as that, really. Usually you can open up the jig mold right away and it's hardened already. That lead will harden almost immediately. So I'll pull the jigs out of there and I'll kind of set them aside. They'll be really hot, so I don't want to mess with them yet. Once those are completely cooled off, what I'll do is I'll take a pliers and I'll take this top portion off and I'll kind of wiggle it and it just pops right off. And I'll kind of clean that up a little bit, make sure it's flat. And there's basically your finished product, where all we have to do now is paint it, add a jig, and add a weed guard. Oh, another thing to note that I forgot to say is we're not going to remove this weed guard pin yet until after we get done painting. This will help us keep that hole the right diameter, and if we get paint in there, it's going to be really hard for us to put a weed guard in there later on. So as far as painting, I'll use this Protect powder paint. But we're gonna save that for another video and show you how to do that and that. So we got our painted jig head and we're ready to add a weed guard and add a skirt. So as far as skirt materials, you have multiple different kinds. You have the silicone kind, or you have the living rubber kind. Each of these can be good for different things, but today we're going to talk about putting the silicone kind on. In order to do that, I use this skirt making tool, and it's like a little $5 tool that I got from Tackle Warehouse, but they also make other different tools that you can use for this, but this one's the easiest for me, and it's very simple. But basically what you'll do is you'll take these little skirt collars, and you'll push it over the tip of this thing, and you'll push it down there, and you can actually do more at a time. Like if I was making a bunch of skirts, I could put a bunch more of these on there and then go from there. But what I'll do is I'll take this cone portion off now, and today I'm gonna make a green pumpkin skirt with a little bit of orange accent in it. Usually for a jig, I'll use like 2 tabs for a full jig. Since I'm making a finesse jig, I want a little bit less skirt on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do 1.5 tabs of green pumpkin and then like 5 or 6 strands of this orange. And it should make us a really good finesse jig. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line these up like that. And then I take my hook end of the skirt making tool and I'll push it down through there. So it's hanging out here, and I can hook these tabs. Make sure you grab all 3 of them. But I hook those, pull them through till you get to the desired length. And usually you don't want it right in the center because you kind of want it off-centered in order to, basically the way the jig will drape down is you want the portion that goes to the hook to be shorter than the portion that goes to the top of the head of the bait. But basically what I'll do is I'll just pull that skirt tab off there, and you have yourself a good skirt ready to go, ready to be put on this this jig head. The only thing is, once we get it on the jig head, we'll have to cut these skirt tabs off. So like I said earlier, you want the longer end to be up towards the head, kind of like this, because whenever this skirt will drape down, it'll end up being, as you can see, it ends up being the same length as that shorter end anyways. Basically go through that skirt tab, push it all the way down until it gets to the top of that. Push up, try not to bunch up the skirt too much, and then voila, you got your skirt on there. Now all you have to do is you need to take a scissors here and cut all these little tab ends off. So right there, 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 and there. And you kind of can fluff that up a little bit. And all you need now is your weed guard. So I got a green pumpkin weed guard here, ready to go in. I got some super glue, just any kind of super glue. And what I'll do is I'll just put a drop of super glue in that weed guard hole. You don't want to put too much to where it just comes all oozing out whenever you push your weed guard in, but you'll just put that in there. Push your weed guard in, make sure it's all the way set down to the bottom, and then let that kind of set up and dry, and then you're ready to go fishing. You can trim up your skirt however you want to. Like I said, this is all pure custom. You can customize it however you want. You can turn that into a finesse jig by cutting the top portions off right there, like such. And you got that little collar there. Trim it up a little bit more. And you can move some of this stuff around, but essentially that's all it takes to make yourself a finesse jig or any kind of jig. There's so many different molds out there. The options are they're endless. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully gives you guys something to do over the winter time, is build some jigs and things like that. I know I always stock up in the wintertime on homemade jigs for sure. So thanks for watching. Be sure to follow along for more tips and tricks like this, and we'll see you guys next time.